What makes Batman work? What makes a superhero without superpowers so special? That's what the Batman Telltale series asks you, the player, so many times throughout this duology of games. The real question for this video is, how does the Batman Telltale series stand up and have a voice amongst the crowd of so many great iterations of the character that has been told throughout his 70 plus years of character history? Through comics, movies, shows, and games, what made Batman Telltale series so good is the real question.
Huh? Bruce, you can't keep doing this.
I have to. No one else will.
Every drop of blood, everything you've sacrificed. The city is safer now, but it's made you a target. And people will keep you in the crosshairs until you're shot out of the sky.
Criminals in this city. They need something to fear.
Do you know what makes a great superhero, well, great? It's when that hero is someone you can put yourself into and relate to. But how do you make that for everyone? You see, as the character has evolved over the decades, there have been multiple iterations of Batman. And that is where Telltale shines in this story. Throughout the game, you have choices that reflect the Batman you want to be. You can have Batman be more isolated, not really much of a team player, be brutal and work in the shadows. Or have him be more collaborative, be more merciful, and try to be a symbol of hope for Gotham. All these choices work well together, and they work well around the character Batman and Bruce Wayne. In past games, there have been a couple of times where you would play as Bruce Wayne, but how Telltale does it works really well with the game they're making. And also completing this sort of Bruce Wayne and Batman dynamic. The first chapter of episode 1 presents that really well. You start with stopping a bank robbery at the mayor's office, and it transitions back and forth between you playing and stopping this robbery as Batman and talking as Bruce Wayne to Alfred. The dialogue here establishes a bit of where Bruce is at as Batman and establishes a bit of his relationship between him and Alfred. And this iteration of Alfred is one of the best iterations of the character we have seen for Batman. Bruce and Alfred's interactions can be so well thought out and emotional. Not just a man in Bruce's earpiece, but an actual person, and the personal stakes between him and the main plot points of the game adds so much more to the character. But before we get to that, we have a party to attend to. And yeah, you notice throughout the game there are so many
visual glitches,
to say the least. The game has been out for about 5 years and none of it has been patched. Bruce looks like he has the same amount of sweat on the back of his suit. Jim Smokes is literally from a different universe. And it's a distraction, especially the camera focus being so out of whack. Okay, I know it may not seem like that I like the game, but I promise it's good, alright? Like, okay, look, it's Harvey Dent in this game. Yeah, Harvey Dent, that guy. Isn't he cool in some iterations? Yeah, he's totally cool. For his story, Bruce uses his wealth and money on Harvey Dent's campaign run for mayor. And in this section, it's pretty cool. You learn a bit of how Harvey acts. He's a bit of a goofball in this iteration, but he also seems like a guy who wants to do what's right for Gotham. And they totally don't do some obvious foreshadowing or anything like that. But after some conversations with the Zellbach and also Vicky, you're met with what seems to be an important choice. Shake hands with Falcone or not. And this is where another issue with this game comes into play. This game series adapts to the choices you make. That is a constant quote that people mock in Telltale games. A lot of people criticize Telltale for this even, saying this is the biggest lie in gaming even. But when talking about this game, there is a lot more to be desired from some of these choices. Like shaking hands with Falcone or not, I would have liked to see more of the implications of how people saw me because of that choice. The game specifically tells me the people of Gotham remember the fact that I did or did not shake his hand. But it doesn't do much. People will still consider me corrupt, and we don't get much deeper than that. It's just sort of disappointing due to the fact that people think Bruce is corrupt because allegations of his father was recently coming out to light. And there are some moments where you have the option to try and combat these claims, but overall it doesn't do anything to affect the story around you. They give you, the player, at times I would call at least the illusion of choices. But in all honesty, I think only like 40% of the choices in this game actually do matter. This can also be said about your relationship with Vicky Vale, but I'll get to that later.
That night, that alleyway, it made me who I am. I can't get it out of my head.
That is your gift and your curse. Being Batman can allow you to turn back the tide of treachery that's reached this city's shores, or drown you in its sorrow. When you doubt your fate, remember why you started all this. Remember that boy in the alley.
I know I've been kind of shitting on this game a bit, but god damn it, what Telltale has always done well, specifically with their choices, is how much relationships matter. Bruce and Alfred's relationship can be a very wholesome relationship, or a very bitter or cold one. That is up to you and your choices on how you interact with him. The same could be said with Bruce or Selina, which is honestly just so well done. Probably never the highlight of this game for me is the relationship between Joy Baker's Batman and Laura Bailey's Catwoman. Both actors have great chemistry with each other, and the relationship is built up in a lot of meaningful ways. The story starts at episode 1, and you fight as adversaries, but as Batman is trying to piece things together for his case, Selina is also involved in her own ways, and so they both end up working together. And wait, is this a script? Oh, hold on.
Batman's trying to put all these pieces together, and he has a hunch that Selina might have some information. So we have something that we need from each other from a very early point, and it's an interesting game of cat and mouse where we kind of, we're interested in each other, we don't really trust each other, we're kind of using each other, and it's a really interesting journey that we go on emotionally. And she's a big mystery to Batman, and I think he's really intrigued by that. And both of these people, I think, have a hard time, finding anyone that understands them. When they are so different, they come from completely different backgrounds, but there's this connection between them that I think neither of them have ever experienced. So it's quite romantic, actually, as Rob said once. Didn't you say that about the end?
Look, I'm not trying to say the Batman movie is sounding a lot like this game, but I mean, you decide for yourself. Anyways, with things like the dialogue choices, the fights, and even just when the game takes a minute and focuses on these two, Telltale is honestly just showing off. Now, it is clear that Telltale knows how to tell a great story and have your choices matter, well, at least in terms of relationships. But that is somewhat limited to a degree. See, I understand why people don't always take Telltale's messages of each choice that will affect the story. The whole that message, right? They don't take it that seriously. Understandably so. As in many games in their catalog, they all mainly end in the same, with some interactions being different, or with very small changes in the grand scheme of things. However, with that being said, this game exists, but for another more longer video, I'm sure I'll talk about it. But this game seems to trip on itself with its choices in some ways, and of course, like I said, that isn't uncommon in a Telltale game, but this one really bothered me for some time, and I'm glad that I can break it down for you, and I'm sure once I do, you'll completely understand it, why it frustrates me. And that's what we're doing right now. And my issue really stems from Vicky Vale. And this is a spoiler, real quick, little warning here or whatever, spoiling the 5-year-old game. Victoria Arkham. Now let me be clear, I prefer his version of Vicky over, But I think Telltale really dropped the ball with her. I feel like nothing you do, the interactions you have with her, really does not influence anything in an interesting or meaningful way. It's heavily shown and explained that Vicky hates the Waynes. She thinks Bruce Wayne is just as bad and deserves to be punished and such. But there have been so many interactions you have with her as both Bruce Wayne and Batman that should at least challenge that perspective, because you have the choice to reveal your identity to Vicky to save Alfred, and she somewhat praised Batman throughout the game, and Bruce being Batman does in fact challenge her current perspective on him. And what does the game do with this? She just dies in the most cliche of ways, and from a couple of rocks falling on her. Like, come on. She had probably one of the best surprise reveals in a Batman game. I'm looking at you. It just bothers me so much that they have made this original take on the character and they don't do as much as they could have. And yes, once again, don't get me wrong. This game is perfect in some things. Maybe even a lot of things. And can be either good, okay, or bad in everything else. I would have liked the game to be patched in some areas. I like some more of the choices really make an impact and see how they would have played out. Especially the ending they do nothing with in Season 2. However, the game's writing is so sharp and thought out. Their takes on the Batman mythos are bold and really stand out, and the choices I wish they would have done more with. It really depends on how much these things bother you. Some people simply won't play this game simply because it's a Telltale game. And yeah, I can understand them not being for everyone, and we're in a pandemic. And well, Gotham Knights is coming soon, TM. So if you enjoy Batman and his stories, then I think it's something worth buying. If you don't have any new games you're looking forward to, I mean, the options are quite limited, unfortunately, as you may have heard through multiple other ways, right? I just won't say any names. But if anything, I hope I presented something interesting about this game you never thought about. I didn't want to do a full-fledged breakdown on all the alternate choices and the characters too much, as I don't want to spoil it for the odd possibility that this blows up and people on Twitter suddenly say that Batman, the Telltale series, is an underrated masterpiece and something like that, and get clout tweets of 1,000 likes and they feel fulfilled about themselves, But this has been a long time coming. And yeah, I had fun making it. I hope you enjoyed watching and listening, and if you did, please consider liking and subscribing. It doesn't take that long. It helps the motivation of this, and I've been stuck at 194 subs for 4 months. So 200 before the end of the year will be appreciated. But either way, thank you for watching and making it this far. Take care, and peace out.
I've stolen from corrupt jerks like Hill, but I've taken plenty from good people, too. For what? Some shiny new toys and a crappy apartment on the edge of town? The high is nice, but it wears off. Then you look around and see nothing. So you get back out there. Try and chase that feeling down. But it never amounts to anything, really.
It's not the same, but I know what you mean. After everything we do, everything we're capable of, coming home just feels
like a disappointment.
right.